What on earth do modern-day Nazis actually want? They can't reasonably. You see that word at the end there? It doesn't apply. Groups that you'd call Nazi 100% won another Holocaust. Hitler didn't go from "I hate Jews" to "kill all Jews." There were steps in between. One thing Hitler thought up was forcing all Jews to move to Madagascar. The reason why I bring this up is because many neo-Nazis today won't use genocidal language but will talk about separation. If you ask how you get that separation, you'll only get crickets, because they know that force is the only way. Umberto Eco made a famous essay on the 14 points to fascism. The essay had been summarized to 14 points. 1. The cult of tradition. One has only to look at the syllabus of every fascist movement to find the major traditionalist thinkers. The Nazi Gnosis was nourished by traditionalist, syncretistic, occult elements. 2. The rejection of modernism. The Enlightenment, the Age of Reason, is seen as the beginning of modern depravity. In this sense, fascism can be defined as a rationalism. 3. The cult of action for action's sake. Action being beautiful in itself, it must be taken before, or without, any previous reflection. Thinking is a form of emasculation. 4. Disagreement is treason. The critical spirit makes distinctions, and to distinguish is a sign of modernism. In modern culture, the scientific community praises disagreement as a way to improve knowledge. 5. Fear of difference. The first appeal of a fascist or prematurely fascist movement is an appeal against the intruders. Thus, fascism is racist by definition. 6. Appeal to social frustration. One of the most typical features of the historical fascism was the appeal to a frustrated middle class. A class suffering from an economic crisis or feelings of political humiliation, and frightened by the pressure of lower social groups. 7. The obsession with a plot. Thus, at the root of the fascist psychology there is the obsession with a plot, possibly an international one. The followers must feel besieged. The enemy is both strong and weak. By a continuous shifting of rhetorical focus, the enemies are at the same time too strong and too weak. 8. Pacifism is trafficking with the enemy. For fascism there is no struggle for life, but rather, life is lived for struggle. 9. Contempt for the weak. Elitism is a typical aspect of any reactionary ideology. 10. Everybody is educated to become a hero. In fascist ideology, heroism is the norm. This cult of heroism is strictly linked with the cult of death. 11. Machismo and weaponry. Machismo implies both disdain for women and intolerance and condemnation of non-standard sexual habits, from chastity to homosexuality. 12. Selective populism. There is in our future a TV or internet populism, in which the emotional response of a selected group of citizens can be presented and accepted as the voice of the people. 13. Fascism speaks newspeak. All the Nazi or fascist schoolbooks made use of an impoverished vocabulary and an elementary syntax, in order to limit the instruments for complex and critical reasoning. I also missed one somewhere since copy-paste didn't work well. Some of this might not make sense, but he goes into depth for each one. But Dr. a bunch of reactionary people who will literally blame anything like immigrants, gays, Jews, which today are called Marxists, globalists, as something that'll ruin the old-fashioned way of living, despite the fact that the world is always changing in literally every decade and century. They want a hierarchy where men are at the top and they're the ruthless warriors, and anyone who says or thinks otherwise is an enemy. Edit. I pressed save edit, and despite that, Reddit completely ruined the numbering points. I give up on this site. Good to see so many blackouts occurring tomorrow. Edit. Since this is being upvoted, here's the original that I copied from https://www.openculture.com/2016/11/Umberto Economicus list of the 14 common features of fascism.html. Just keep in mind that's a summary. The original essay, which is a fairly short read, is also free online. Key word is reasonably. The answer is yes. They do want another Holocaust-type outcome for groups they don't like. Ideally. The point is they feel wronged by the very existence of certain people. And they don't care if they can realistically succeed or not. Because hate isn't reasonable. A. They aren't rational or reasonable, and B. TBH, they'd probably take a genocide or two, can't lie. All the pesky gays, trans and brown people gone. They don't care how. These people are stupid, lost and brainwashed. They don't know what they want, they just know who they hate, and that's whoever they listen to. Points at next. Actually, a lot of Nazis do want another Holocaust-type outcome. It's pretty apparent, and they are very open about it on their social media. Gab, Stormfront, etc. They also have many more contemporary grievances like pro-gun, anti-vax, anti-trans, and anti-woke views. What's alarming is that they've become more receptive to mainstream right-wing political parties, especially in the US, as those parties have moved further right into territory neo-Nazis find acceptable in the past decade or so. As a side note, many Holocaust deniers actually know better and know the Holocaust happened. Holocaust denialism is trolling. Talking about the Holocaust is a way for them to simultaneously associate themselves with Nazi violence, while denying it allows them to disassociate from responsibility for wrongdoing and accuse Jews and other enemies as liars. The book The Racist Mind by Raphael Ezekiel explores this paradoxical and hypocritical phenomenon. Nazis aren't known for being rational people. Their most achievable measurable goal is the eradication of trans people. But most of their goals aren't measurable, and the way they go about achieving them doesn't make sense. They want some return to what some would call a traditional way of life. They want forced unity and nationalistic pride. They hate democracy and social progress. Nazis are just full of hate. They don't have any goal except for projecting their hate at whatever minority is currently on the spotlight of their anger. Many people today who claim to be Nazis are not Nazis. They are ultra-nationalist authoritarians. Nazism had a mystique and level of success that many ultra-nationalist, right-wing authoritarians want to emulate. They use the icons and vocabulary of the Third Reich to strike fear in supporters of neoliberalism. No, it will strike a strong chord. Nazism was more than fascism. It was a very specific merger of fascism and 20th century German racial theory. Very few people today believe what Nazis did specifically. Rather, it's the spirit of what the Nazis did that interests them. At the end of the day, it's rule by bullies. Might makes right, with a populist appeal to fear and xenophobia. Generally, they want a platform to spread their hatred. Specifically, they definitely want to hurt as many minorities, non-white people as possible. Pretty similar goals to WW2-era Nazis. I can't recall the specifics, but there was someone in the news recently who was a Nazi. Their father had tried to talk them out of it, saying, "At some point they'll make you shovel bodies into the furnace too." They know they won't achieve what they want. Have you ever noticed these Nazis are always losers who never did anything with their lives? They need a way to feel they're superior despite being losers. So they claim they have superior genes, based mostly on past European dominance that they weren't even alive for. Because they aren't capable of achieving anything special, they simply say, "Well, I'm white so I'm superior, and now they can feel better about being a waste of oxygen. What on earth do modern-day Nazis actually want? They want the Turner Diaries to become a documentary. White supremacy. Violence. Nasty stuff.
Attention.
To feel superior to others by creating terror. Same thing all bullies want. They feel small and inadequate and group together with other small, scared people and terrorize people into fearing them. I think they want a pure white race. I think it's unachievable because we are all just a little of this and that. They are not reasonable people, dude. They want an ethno-state. They want to be the people on top, and everybody else either serves them or dies. They want absolute power with zero oversight. Their father's approval. Some people are so desperate to feel like they belong that they would rather be one of the bad guys than be just a guy.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Haircast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.